Ah, the modern business, full of lots of modern people doing lots of modern things. Like this guy. However, what with all this modern convenience, it's not all roses and rainbows. See, cybersecurity is a major concern these days, especially for a company like this one. After spending billions of dollars on security, you'd think they'd be safe, right? Wrong. Point being, with all this boffo technology whizzing about, you can't make heads or tails from threats coming outside or inside. Worse still, you can't identify what's at risk due to vulnerability or value, or which employees are being targeted for privileged access to the company goodies. And if you don't have that, what do you have? A splitting headache. And then, eventually, a breach that could really ruin your day. Take Jim over there. A loner type who works for a well-to-do pharmaceutical company and just got passed over for a promotion and a raise. Big deal, right? Well, not for Jim, who also thinks the world owes him one. So, what does he do? Work harder? Hardly. Hello. What's this now? That file Jim just opened contains some sensitive R&D for a drug his company's developing, which normally he'd only email to upper management. Now that's fishy. If you didn't figure it out, Jim just copied that secret document to his little key, which he plans to sell to the highest bidder. A real problem, right? Right! If only there was something in place that recognized that Jim, of all people, accessed that highly sensitive data and instead of emailing it to upper management, put it on a USB stick. Mind you, traditional outside threats are still a big deal, which we'll get to after this guy sneezes. Gesundheit. Meet Gareth Heidelberg, a real sweetheart. Now, he doesn't have what you or I would call a job. No, he spends a majority of his time noodling about, packaging malware, and all other sorts of nasty business. Currently, hooray, it's like Christmas morning for Heidelberg, because a website he's compromised happens to have a visitor who works in finance at a big box retailer. Now their work computers are compromised, which means credit card numbers and all sorts of illicit goodies are now within his reach. All that's left now is for him to exfiltrate the data without raising the company's suspicion. Good for Heidelberg, bad for you. Now, because this was done with a legitimate user's computer, it all looks above board. However, if they had a system in place that knew that this user was accessing things they normally shouldn't, doing it at weird hours and saving it locally, a flag should have been raised. Well, it should, shouldn't it? What's more, part of the problem is knowing what's valuable and what's vulnerable, and what traps the baddies are going to be using. I mean, if Heidelberg is just trying to snatch pictures of cats eating cheeseburgers, no big deal. But he's not, and he is. To see what I mean, let's visit one of Heidelberg's cronies, guy by the name of the Rat. I know, a name only a mother could love. Ah, here we are in the Rat's nest. Charming, no? Probably not a place you want to bring someone with a functioning nose. By knowing what's valuable and a nose for vulnerable applications, the Rat can help Heidelberg set the trap by exploiting vulnerabilities in applications that hold these high-value assets. Patient records, credit cards, trade secrets, all that good stuff. If companies could identify what the Rat and Heidelberg use to exploit vulnerabilities in applications, classify high-value assets, and correlate them, well, they would put them right out of business. But enough of this lovely aroma. Let's take one more trip and then head back to where we started. Okay, see that woman over there? That's Kendra. Happens to work for the same pharmaceutical company that Jim works for. She's a top-notch systems administrator with a soft spot for college hoops. And specifically Caltech, who just lost. Don't laugh. Where was I? Right, losing. And Kendra's about to lose big time. Recently, Kendra won a signed jersey on an online bidding site. A site that was just compromised by Heidelberg. Now, Kendra's password, which she also happens to use for work, is in the hands of some really nasty customers. Now, I don't have to tell you what happens next. but I will. See, Kendra's super user credentials are now in the Rat and Heidelberg's hands, which they are rubbing together because, oh boy, Kendra's credentials gain them access to the CEO's computer, which has the information equivalent of the crown jewels. When the lights go out here tonight, our boys plan on logging in at midnight and causing some real problems. If only there was something that could sound the alarm that critical information was being accessed at midnight when the CEO was in bed at home. It all looks like bad news across the board, right? Wrong. See, I know something that both you and the bad guys don't. Both this company and the big box retailer we were talking about earlier are using something that would make Sherlock Holmes green with envy. Something that is about to give Jim, Heidelberg, and the Rat a really bad day. The answer? The CISOs are using Risk Fabric from Bay Dynamics. It's a real whiz-bang predictive security analytics platform which specializes in recognizing the patterns of all 4 scenarios: inside threats, outside threats, attack surface, high privilege access threats, which stops the bad guys before any real damage is done. By proactively identifying and filtering what's important and what's not, our CISOs are just now getting the picture. And speaking of, Jim, Heidelberg, and the Rat are getting theirs. Bay Dynamics. See your way forward.